Fantastic. I'm near a koi pond at an Airbnb, so couldn't be better.
You really couldn't be better. I love
For
that
real.
for you.
How you doing?
I am good. Thank you for asking. I'm super, super excited to be talking to you today. Oh my gosh, there's so much love in the chat. Oh my goodness, I can't get over this. Oh my gosh. Okay, so thank you, Josh, so much for being here.
I still. I'm so sorry. I totally cut out.
Oh, it's okay.
I have a parental control thing still, so I had to change. Anyway, we're good now. We're back.
Okay, we're good. Well, for anyone just joining in right now, hello. Welcome to one of our Be There Now live sessions. I am here with the one and only Joshua Bassett. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait for this conversation.
We are going to be talking all about mental health, if that wasn't already obvious enough. We are going to be specifically discussing Be There, which is one of our wonderful platforms here at Jack.org. And we have 5 golden rules we like to talk about when we talk about supporting someone through a tough situation. And Josh, you and I got to talk just last week about the golden rules, and we chose 2 that really resonate with us. But I'm going to tell everybody watching right now about all 5 golden rules, and then we'll go into our 2 that we like the most.
Sounds like a plan. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So the first one we have is say what you see, and it's about trusting your gut and starting the conversation if you're worried about someone who may be struggling with their mental health. We have show you care, which is about, I'm going to turn my ringer off, which is about building trust with someone and finding practical ways to help someone through what they may be going through. We have hear them out, which is about learning how to build trust with someone and become a good listener. Know your role is about setting boundaries to protect your relationship with the person you may be supporting, as well as your own mental health. And then finally, connecting someone to help is about how to support someone in accessing the help they need and deserve. I am super, super excited. And what we discussed is that we really resonated with number 1 and number 3, which was say what you see and hear them out. Josh, tell the audience, why do those resonate with you the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think say what you see is so important because I think the more taboo things are. Oh, we got a helicopter coming right over. Should be fun. Um, the more taboo things are, I think the more dangerous it is, and I feel like we sort of live in a society where some things are sort of called out, but a lot of times they aren't. And I think speaking up is the most important thing you can do, especially when you feel like you need to say something. And that can mean anything, whether it's speaking up when you see someone's not okay or when someone's being treated poorly. My other thing on top of the say what you see is I actually like to name things as they're happening to me. So if I'm in a room like a studio session and I start having an anxiety attack, instead of stifling it or pretending like I'm okay, I'll be like, actually, I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety right now. So I think that can
Mm-hmm.
go both ways, whether or not calling out someone else, but also saying it out loud for yourself, I think is a way you can like process things. And then the other one was listening, right? Or what is the official term?
Hear them out.
Hear them out. Yes. I think people, whether they realize it or not, always can tell when they're not being heard. And I think nothing's sadder to me than somebody bearing their soul and like not being heard, and somebody just like either brushing them off or not really listening or just thinking of a response. I think we
Mm-hmm.
underestimate how important it is to really just sit and hear people out and have them be seen. And I think that goes for the opposite of like, sometimes you need to talk it out to people, because I'm the kind of person where I'm very private and I don't really like talking about my problems with people, but it's changed my life, one, having a therapist, but also just, having friends that I can talk through things with. So I think, that those 2 are important to me for those reasons, but I'd love to hear your reasons for those.
Oh my, that is exactly why I talk about mental health, is to have these vulnerable conversations. So thank you. And before I talk about my reasoning, for everybody watching, if you have any questions for us as we go through this conversation, Josh and I would love to answer them. So feel free to drop those in the chat and we will get to them eventually. There's so
Yes.
much love there right now, but we will get to them eventually. For me, specifically, say what you see has always been a super important one, because you know what? There are so many opportunities to converse.
Oh, I can't hear you. Am I
Am I
alone in that?
back?
There we go. Okay, yes.
Okay, sorry, I was
You
getting a
said,
phone call. Oh my goodness.
oh, all good, all good. You said there are so many situations, or yeah, and then I lost you.
Yeah, there are so many situations where I just want to talk to my friends about what I think they may be going through, or honestly, stuff I'm going through. And it's difficult to just sit down and say, this is what I've noticed. And that is the beauty of it, honestly, to sit there and say, I noticed that maybe you're not acting like yourself, or maybe you haven't showed up to our hangouts lately or handed in your assignments on time. It's such simple ways to show people that, hey, I care so much about you, and that is why I'm doing this. And to
Oh,
be even on the receiving end of it, just like you feel the butterflies, you feel loved and supported. And that is always the best feeling. And for hearing them out, I don't know about you, but whenever I'm like back in the day when I would try to have conversations with people, it would be that I would start the conversation and then they'd be like, okay, well, I know how to fix your problems. And then it wouldn't actually be a conversation, you know?
right, totally. Yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that's when like that's why I think that rule is so beautiful, to actually say like, no, I actually am gonna just sit here and listen to you and like hear you out and hear what you have to say.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. And I think going back for a second on the say something thing, I think it's important. I do this personally. I establish with most of my good friends or whoever um, sort of an environment where it's encouraged to speak up. And I sort of say like, if there's ever anything, I never want you to feel like you can't say something to me, because that's ultimately where problems arise, is when you feel like you can't say something. And so I think like instead of waiting for a problem to occur or waiting for some time where you want to say something, I think establishing that with your friends and saying like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, if you ever saw something or you ever think I need to hear something, I would much rather you say that than not. I think is an important thing to establish, so that, when things do come up, then there's a mutual, hopefully they agree, there's a mutual understanding that it's for your best interest and whatnot. I think sometimes people take it as a personal attack or like someone's trying to hurt you, when most of the times that's not the reality. So establishing that, I think, is key.
And you
Um,
do that through conversations like this and just telling people, I want to talk about mental health and these conversations are so important to me.
totally, absolutely, yeah.
There
Sorry,
are so many comments. I'm a little bit overwhelmed, Josh, just a little
I
bit.
know there's a handful. I'm trying to scroll through. Somebody said, I think it's Mika said, forgive me if I got that wrong. Mika said, how do you deal with social anxiety? You got any tips? I know I have mine,
Honestly,
but
I do not deal with that personally, so if you have anything, feel free to share.
yeah, I mean, I think social anxiety makes perfect sense. I mean, um, I sort of have a problem of constantly looking over my shoulder and sort of being hyper aware. I think, like, other than the simple techniques of like focusing on your breath and, grounding yourself in the present moment, I think the important thing to remember is to like not take things personally, because the reality is 90% of the time, especially if you're not doing anything, people's judgment of you or their thoughts of you are all a projection of their own insecurities. And I think recognizing that, if somebody has a problem with you, it's almost always about them and not you. Like, remembering that everybody's insecure, everybody is, has their baggage, has their problems, and like just not taking it personally is kind of freeing, because then you go, oh, it really doesn't care what you think of me. Because if somebody's, for example, embarrassed about you, maybe you're dancing in the street and somebody's like, that's embarrassing. It's like, no, that's embarrassing for you. Like, I'm sorry you have those problems, but you shouldn't allow that to make you go, oh, geez, I should dim my light because this person is embarrassed or whatever. So anyway, I think just like not taking things personally is hard to do, but it's an important thing to remember. But yeah, I would say that maybe. I don't know. Hopefully that's helpful.
I think that is super helpful, and I personally do not deal with social anxiety, but I totally hear what you're saying about my friends and I will have conversations about this. Like the fear of how you're perceived and how you're looked at in the world is
Mm,
really scary. And I can only imagine from your position what you may be going through. But I
sure.
can assure you that there's so much love for what you just said. And
Mm,
also a lot of love. I was reading it as you were talking, multitasking here. And there's just so much love for this conversation we're having right
mm,
now because we don't see it enough. And
totally.
something we talked about last Friday actually was the fact that us young people grew up with social media. We don't remember a time where social media wasn't a part of our lives.
Totally.
And to deal with our mental health on top of everything we go through on social media and we witness and we see is really difficult. Do you have any words of wisdom around that for anybody?
Yeah, I mean the easiest technique would be turn off your phone.
Yeah.
I remember when I was like 11, I was like, I'm taking a social media break, and everyone was like, you're 11, and I was like, I don't care, I'm taking a social media break, and I would just go off. I'd change my bio and be like, I'm out for 3 months, guys. Not that anyone cared or it mattered, but it just, like, anyway, don't be afraid to take social media breaks, because we underestimate how powerful it is to literally just put it away. And the problem
Mm-hmm.
is it's addicting on two fronts. It's addicting chemically in your brain, but then it's also addicting for our insecurities, because the dopamine hits make us feel value, or they make us feel good, or whatever it might be. And I think that's why it can be hard for people to like step away from it. But it's almost like social media is like a toxic friend. You sort of get a rush from it, but ultimately
Yeah.
it's doing you harm. And so I would say just like taking a step back is the best advice I could give. But yeah, I mean, it's so funny too. I went off social media for a minute and came back on recently, and I was just scrolling through, and I was like, oh, we're all still pretending like we're cool. Like everyone's just pretending like they're so
Yes.
much cooler than they are. It's like it's all a facade. If you could see influencers and the hundreds of photos they take to get that one that seems like they don't care, it's like it's all an illusion, and it's so easy to fall into the trap. Like, oh my God, these people are so much cooler than me. They're doing so much more than me. They're so much happier, so much more successful. The reality is we're all going through it, and nobody is as cool as they think. It's all an illusion. So I would say just remember that next time you feel like you're not living up to the standard. It's like the standard's a joke, and it's also changing every day, and it's all an illusion. So anyway.
I snaps for everything you just said. Like that's exactly how I feel about social media. The fact that I'll go on and I'm immediately comparing myself to everybody and to their lives and to looks and to what they're accomplishing. It's almost like ingrained in my brain to be like, okay, I'm gonna go on social media and make myself feel bad about myself.
Yeah, totally. It's crazy. It's wild that we've fallen into this hole of like
Mm-hmm.
misery that we just all perpetuate. It's like we could all walk away today and just be like, you know what, this is not worth the strain. It's just, yeah. Anyway, I know it's a lot easier said than done, but yeah, one of the questions I saw was, how do you stay positive with everything going on in your life? And I actually thought of this today, funnily, but I've sort of been going through it like a lot this year, but also just in the last few days, just having a really tough time. Um, and I realized like it's so easy to get overwhelmed when you think about the 20 things you have to do in a week, let alone a day, let alone an hour. When you start thinking
Mm-hmm.
about all this stuff that I have to get done, or all these things, and when you look at life as one big thing, it can be so daunting and crippling, and it can keep you in bed for days and whatnot. But I think the most important thing is like focusing on what you have to do right now. I mean, it's a good analogy. I'm going to butcher it, but it's like this guy goes into like a kitchen, and there's like 500 dishes, and the guy's like, I can't do 500 dishes. Like, that's insane. And the teacher's like, you don't have to do 500 dishes. You just have to do one. Just do the one. And the reality is like, there is so much that happens in life, and it is very difficult. But if you just focus on right now, and can I get this done right now? Like, am I
Mm-hmm.
okay right now? You're going to get through life so much easier than thinking about all the things you have to do at once, or all the things that have happened and all your fears and stuff. So anyway, that was just something that I thought of today, of like, just take it a moment at a time. Take it as it comes. It'll be okay if you handle life in those small moments instead of grand, giant things you have to get done. But anyway,
It
yeah.
is really easy to get lost in, oh my gosh, I have this coming up, or how's that going to turn out? And it really is easy to think about the future instead of thinking about the
Yes.
now and what do I have also good right now? I have these people in my life. I have maybe a pet in my life that I can depend on right now and I can look to for a little bit of happiness. And as things go on, they're the people who are by my side to support me. And that is the beautiful thing about Be There, that when you are having a rough time, you have these skills that you can learn through Be There to start those conversations and to have those critical conversations.
Totally. Yeah. And I will say one more thing on that, like, not to go too much into it, and I've talked about this a little bit before, but I was in the hospital at the beginning of this year, and I was going through one of the worst. It was a low, if not the low, of my life, and
Mm-hmm.
there was a night when I was in the ICU and nobody was allowed there, and I couldn't drink any water, and it was like they wouldn't let me drink water. It was like all of the things I enjoyed in life were taken away, and I was just like so at a low, and everyone I was calling wasn't picking up, and it was just like the lowest point of my life. And in that moment, all that I had was my breath, and I was like, just focus on your breath. And it sounds cliche and it sounds ridiculous, but I just took like 3 deep breaths and I was continuously focusing on it. And it's like, ultimately I didn't have anything in that moment. Everything, all my comforts, everything was taken away from me. But ultimately I had my breath, and that got me through it. And that alone, people underestimate, I think, how important it is to focus on your breath. And again, people overlook it because I think it's a cliche. They think, yeah, whatever, but I still have all these problems. But really, truly, if you're able to focus on your breath and you can find that peace in the space that is the present moment, like, so you can handle so much more than you think. So anyway, if you don't have a friend, if you don't have somebody in that moment, if your world is crumbling and you have nothing you can cling on to for joy, just remember, focusing on your breath will get you through it. And it's not going to last forever. That's the biggest thing I would say, because I get into these bouts of depression where I'm like, oh, life's hell, like it's all miserable, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, that is a fleeting feeling that will not last forever. It simply won't.
Mm-hmm.
You forget that every time you're in it, but it's important to remember that it will pass. But yeah.
Thank you for those just incredible words, and thank you for being so honest with your audience and with our audience here at Jack.org. You don't find a lot of people like yourself who are willing to share that with their platform. So thank you. You did not need to do that. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
I just want to read out one comment. I lost it in all of this, but I remember it. It was, therapy is expensive, but watching Joshua Bassett is cheaper. And I had to tell you that because I saw it and I wanted to read it to you like 10 minutes ago, but we were deep in our conversation. But I just want you to know the impact that you have on your audience and for all of us at Jack.org. For those of you who may not know, a portion of Joshua's merch sales were actually going to Jack.org, and that's how we got connected. So we are beyond grateful that you showed us to your platform and to your audience and had this conversation with us, because just like I said, there are so many people who are benefiting from this. So we are beyond grateful. Thank you.
I reciprocate that fully. I mean, you guys really do excellent work, and I love that you guys are youth driven and you're constantly innovative, and you're also practical in how you help the world. And I think like, the more companies we can have like you guys, really, the better world we have. So any way I can give you guys any more spotlight or help. And I know a lot of the fans, potentially people watching this who have bought my merch, actually chose to give you guys money because they get to pick when you check out. So thank you to everybody who recognized how wonderful Jack.org is and how important they are. If you guys want, you can check out on their website it's 7, right?
5 golden rules.
Shoot, the 5
you were
golden
close,
rules.
You were close.
Yikes, I'm failed the test. The 5 golden rules at Jack.org. But yeah, thank you guys so much for all that you do, and thank you for having me, and this has been so lovely.
Thank you so much. And to anyone watching, just like Joshua said, please feel free to check out everything Jack.org and be there. Our URLs are so easy. It's literally Jack.org. It's the beauty of everything here. You can find everything at bethere.org as well. Thank you, Joshua. I hope you have a great rest of, I don't even know what time it is where you are. It's close to nighttime here, so I'm going to go have a rest of my evening. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you again.
Thank you so very much. So appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Peace. Bye, guys.